What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the RotoGrinders DFS pregame show. I'm your host, Travis Mangone. Here, finally, I was on a couple shows scheduled. Blender had to keep filling in for me. Tons of noise going on at the house with stuff getting done, but we're here. We're ready to break down this entire yesterday slate and then dive into this game slate a little bit. Look at some lineup HQ and look at a ton of stuff over here. Jump on in, guys. Jump in the YouTube chat. Say hi. Hit the like for us. We would really, really appreciate that. And put comments and questions in the chat throughout the show, and I'll be happy to answer them as I break down some strategy on yesterday's slate, because yesterday's slate was a pretty good one. And I'm going to dive right in really quick and just start because there's a lot to look at. If you look at this first set of things I have up here, I got the different contests. I got the NBA and one. That's a $1 entry. Then I got the fadeaway, $15 entry, rotation player, 66. And then we got the Mega 888. So that's an $888 entry. That's something that I definitely want to dive into and look at. I know Blender, I was watching yesterday's show. He's looking at the $222. We didn't really have like a happy medium type of contest for that. So yeah, this is a 15 entry max, and it'll be interesting to dive in and see what the ownership differences are. So I see some of you guys in the chat, Jose Flores talking about Trae Young. Being heavily on him was not a good idea, obviously, looking back. But at the time, I mean, his ceiling was super, super high. So it's high every day. And against the Raptors, that's a very difficult matchup. So I almost played him in cash games, but I ended up going a different way. Speaking of cash games, I'll kind of give you the breakdown of what my cash game lineup was on Draftkings. I don't have it up right now, but I was looking at the ownerships, and it's funny how it kind of worked out. I had Ersan Ilyasova. He ended up being 60% here in the $1, 20 entry max here. Got Middleton. I had him in my cash lineup. Bledsoe, Beal, Brown, Lopez, Dante Exum, who had the 4.75. That 4.75 was an ugly one. We'll definitely talk about that one a ton. And then I had Jokic. So the 8 highest owned guys I all had on my cash lineup. Overall in the night, I ended up kind of just breaking even. That was one of the issues. And the reason why is Dante Exum, right? That 4.75, I believe in cash games, he was like 60% owned or 45% owned. It really, really buried me. I had great performances from all these other chalky guys, but again, it was a day that the chalk really hit. So let's dive in and kind of look at it more. Like I said, Ersan Ilyasova, he got 22.25 fantasy points, right? But he was still a great player. Right? If you look at the way all the sharp players went as the dollar amount went up, you had 60.73%, 74%, 85%, 92%. More people were on Ilyasova. If you keep looking, same with Middleton, right? Everything keeps going up. It was a day where when Giannis got ruled out, tons and tons of chalk just hit, and it hit big. And on these type of days, these are days I love to play multi-entry. I love to be, playing 150 lineups or 50 lineups. Yesterday, I played 50 over on FanDuel. And the reason why I like to play them is look how great these plays are, right? I get it. Ersan, he may have not gotten there the way you wanted, but he was still on some winning lineups. And all these bucks, they just absolutely smash. So one thing to note, right, if, we got the Giannis news. We got it at, I think, 2 o'clock or 1:30. If you know at 1:30 Giannis is going to be out, you understand that this is a day where you could play like these lower contests, like this $1 20 entry max. Let's say you don't normally max enter it, right? Or let's say the $4, right, is something that you want to max enter and you don't normally max enter it. Go ahead and max enter it on these days and go super heavy on these guys. And then take some of the strategies that we're going to talk about now and, kind of dive in and, find ways to get some leverage on the field. So let's talk about Dante Exum here. He was the dud of the night, right? 4.75. He was not good. And if you look at his ownership, right, it went up, right? There was a lot of sharp people on it. And we'll break down the $15 specifically and kind of show some stuff on Exum in a little bit. But before we do that, let's keep moving in and looking at some other things. We got Trae Young, right? He was 17%, 17, 18. His didn't get as high. And the reason why I think is because the guard spot was utilized by, guys like Eric Bledsoe, Bradley Beal. I'm sure some guard spots were taken by him. Same with Jaylen Brown. So, and Dante Exum as well. So one thing to note, as you see, all of those guards were heavily owned plays on this slate. That meant there was some really good leverage opportunity there. And let's actually go over to that tab now that I have here and kind of look at it. I want to break down and let's go through the first 10 lineups that actually, cashed some pretty significant money in the $15. Drew Dinkmeyer, awesome guy in the industry. He ended up taking down first place, and he really took this thing down, right? You got D'Angelo Russell. He was one of the leverage plays. You got Draymond Green. He was another leverage play, and Serge Ibaka was another leverage play. If you see, he went through, he played the Bucks, right? He got the Ersan chalk. He's in on Bledsoe chalk is fine. Middleton, he ate that chalk. All good chalk to eat. Bradley Beal, too. He ran it back. That's one thing that I think is super important. One painful thing I ended up going back and doing, and I'm happy I went back to do it. It cost me a lot of money, but I'm happy I went back and looked. When I was first starting to do some multi-entry, which I really started doing at the start of this year for NBA, when I first started doing it, I loaded up on the Pacers, right? It was a very similar day to this day. I loaded up on the Pacers because there was tons and tons of value. Guys got ruled out. I forget who it was, but it was a day to play 3 or 4 Pacers in your, your cash games, in your tournaments, because there was just tremendous amount of value. Same with the Bucks today. And what I didn't end up doing was I didn't end up going into lineup HQ and making my groups. I didn't make sure that I got Devontae Graham ran back on it. And the RotoGrinders lineup builder, it kept pushing Graham in my lineups, and I didn't want to have him that day. And that was when, I think that was like in maybe October or November, when Graham wasn't, as popular of a guy, and we knew that he was such a great or such a good player and had improved. And I didn't run it back with any Hornets. And if I had ran it back with Hornets, I went back to my most recent script. I think it was build number 8. Which of 15, which had Hornets on it. I had teams that would have won all the money that night. It was super frustrating. So that was one thing I made sure to do. I made sure to run it back with a Bradley Beal yesterday, a Troy Brown as well, and one other guy, I think Bertan. So those were the 3 guys I made sure to run my lineups back with Washington players. I think that's super important when this chalk hits. It's going to hit big, and these guys are going to make sure to, they're going to get a ton of production as well. So let's keep looking at Dinkmeyer's lineup. So 2 of his big leverage plays were Draymond Green was the number 1 guy, right? Not Draymond Green, Serge Ibaka. He was the number 1 guy. The reason why Serge Ibaka was the number 1 guy, in my opinion, was because he didn't play Brook Lopez. So he leveraged off of Brook Lopez, which I thought was really, really key. And he leveraged off of Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. If you go back and look, we'll switch over to the other tab. Let's see the ownership on those guys. You got Siakam in the fadeaway. He was what? He was 24% here. Let's see what Lowry was. Lowry, we got his ownership at 15%. You got a guy like Gasol. He was 12%. Another guy who was center eligible. So instead of going to the 12% owned center, Dinkmeyer said no. He said, I'm going to go with Ibaka and get all of the leverage in the world. And he leveraged, again, like I said, off of Brook Lopez. If you look at him, 27% in the fadeaway. He just got all the double leverage spots, which I think is really important to do. And I get it, right? Leveraging on one spot is always a good opportunity. Let's say you didn't want to play Ersan. You wanted to fade him for, let's say, John Collins because, everyone's paying down and that's the way you're trying to leverage. I like how Dinkmeyer ended up going over to a guy like Ibaka, and that's how he leveraged. So I thought that was really awesome what he did. And again, D'Angelo Russell was another guy. There's tons of these cheap guards, right? Exum was one guy. Bledsoe was too cheap. Instead, he paid up more for a guy like D'Angelo Russell in a really difficult matchup. And Russell, he has a high usage, and if he just makes makes buckets, he's going to have a really big game. So like what Dinkmeyer did here with this lineup, let's look at Teddy's lineup. And again, a lot of these are really, really similar. You got a ton of Milwaukee guys. If you look, Dinkmeyer, he ended up having Ilyasova, who, again, I saw some people in the Discord chat, they were talking and saying, Ilyasova kind of busted today. And he did kind of bust, right? He didn't bust. It wasn't his best game. He could have done a lot more, right? He's seen 34-point games and 40-point games, but at that price, he was still a good play and still ended up making everything work. So yeah, let's keep looking at this. So we got, this is another opportunity, right? Center, right? Leveraging off of Brook Lopez, leveraging off of a guy like a Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal ended up having a big game, but let's say Bradley Beal didn't have a big game. That 1.6%, that could have been massive, massive leverage. And there is some correlation between Beal and Bryant as well. And like what he did here with getting leverage on a guy like a Thomas Bryant. Same with Dario Saric, right? You could have used him as a leverage play on a Ilyasova. Again, Saric didn't end up working out at 19, but let's say Ilyasova misses a couple shots and Saric makes a couple, and let's say he gets 26 fantasy points and Ilyasova gets 16. That's some pretty good leverage opportunity there. Again, from a 75% guy to a guy who's 0.8% owned. So thought that was really, really interesting. We got guys in the chat. Kyle, he's talking about, he had Bledsoe, Middleton. Ayton was an awesome play who had a really big game, had a ton of him on FanDuel who helped me out a ton. Bacon was the one killer. That's something we should look at right now. Let's kind of go back and look at that. So I don't know if you guys were, if you didn't play yesterday, the big thing that happened was Devontae Graham. He got ruled out, and he got ruled out at 640. That's what kind of happened. So he was a big play. He ended up being one of those guys that I thought would be really high owned. And he ended up then getting lower owned because he got ruled out. But then all of a sudden at 652, it was exactly, then Graham got ruled in. And look what his ownership did. He was one of those guys I expected to be double-digit owned, and then his ownership ended up going to 4.25, 4.43, 3.8, and 1.85. And you can tell, look at the difference, right? A 4.25 and a $1 versus the $888, where again, there's the sharper players playing. 1.85%. Guys were able to move off of him. Now, some guys may have kept him on, and I actually kept him on my FanDuel script, mainly because I was working on my cash game lineup and I play more money on that. But I also thought I had leverage opportunity with a guy like Graham on FanDuel because I had 40% of him, and I said, man, he just got ruled out, and he could easily have a big game. I'm still going to get some exposure to him and keep him in my lineups. And I was also juggling my cash game lineup too. Lineups were really hectic yesterday with all the news that broke down. So Graham's ownership went down a ton. And also Rozier's ownership went up. I don't think we had Rozier projected for, this type of ownership. I get the matchup against the Knicks is pretty decent, but 8.12, 8.93, 7.32, 6.16. I bet he was like a, sub 5% type play before that. And he ended up getting moved up and then got moved back down. And the reason why he got moved back down was because Graham then got ruled in. So people were worried. Let's see some other guys like PJ Washington. He ended up going again, same thing, 4, 3, 2, all goes downward because people realized they had to move off of him. Let's see. And one more guy was Bridges. Bridges got a pretty good bump as well. So we could look at Bridges a little bit and you can see similar stuff going on here. And let's go back and look at these lineups. So I want to kind of check it out because there were some interesting things. Like I said, Thomas Bryant was great leverage at the 1.6%. Thought that was a really good move. It leverages also off of Jokic, right? A very high-owned guy who is expensive, and it leverages off of Brook Lopez, who was another high-owned center and had a lot of ownership. So yeah, we could look at that. Let's look at some other guys. Larry Nance, Bryant. Again, Nance could have been some leverage opportunity there off of Ersan, but not in the exact same price range there. There was one that I definitely saw specifically that I want to talk about that was in this, top 10 when I was breaking it down. Here's a good opportunity good thing to look at here. Again, Troy Brown, right? Ship my money. He plays 49 lineups. He's a pretty sharp dude. I'm sure when he ran his Milwaukee lineups and he built his built out his scripts and everything, I'm sure he made it so he played let's say 2 to 3 Milwaukee or maybe 2 to 4 Milwaukee and made sure to probably run it back with some Washington guys, which I did very similar things as well. So having 2 Washington there made a lot of sense. Let's look at Micah J's lineups now. And again, center is really the spot where a lot of the leverage seemed like it came yesterday. Again, Brook Lopez, he was a guy that, ended up having a lot of ownership. Same with Jokic. And people found lower owned plays that were just as good. So that 3.3% was a really big one. And Booker was another guy that I thought was an interesting guy to maybe get some leverage here off of Bradley Beal if Bradley Beal failed, right? Again, Bradley Beal had a great game. He was a guy that I thought could be a good leverage opportunity, especially with Ricky Rubio being, kind of questionable, right? He got ruled to questionable, then he got ruled to probable, then he moved back to game time decision. So it was all over the place. So I thought there was some really good late swap opportunity with Booker, and that's possibly something that Micah J looked at. And he's a sharp dude, like ranked in the RotoGrinders ranking in like the top 15 or so. So I'm sure he was looking at trying to do that. Let's look what Zero did. He only had one lineup here. So curious how he ended up doing this because playing one lineup, it's not easy to stomach some tough plays. And he did stomach a tough play, right? Larry Nance, that's not the easiest play to stomach. He ended up having that narrative street type of game, playing for Kobe Bryant, wore the number 24 and everything. So that was a nice leverage move by him and, worked out pretty well for him. Let's see, Maven Goose. What did he have? He had Vince Carter. I didn't see that one coming. That's a very odd play. Let's look and see how on Vince Carter was. Let's see. Vince Carter. Man, Vince Carter was owned, by like nobody. And you could see it over here on Results DB too. But no one really owned him, 0.31% in that one. And in the other contest I want to see that. Vince Carter, he is, not even owned in the 888. So interesting that he got any ownership because he's not someone that was on my radar at all yesterday. Let's see. There's one lineup I really wanted to look at. For some reason, I'm losing it now. Maybe it was something else I was looking at, but I can talk about the general strategy of it because I thought it was really interesting. Whoever did it, they put Draymond Green in the point guard spot, and here it is. It's a Brick 75, really sharp dude. So I don't think he specifically did this because he's a 150 guy and he probably just runs his scripts. I don't think he specifically did this, but one thing as someone who hand builds lineups, right? And I'm not saying I do that, but if you do hand build a lineup, because there are people who still like to do that and build on their phone, or if you're out and about one night and you're looking to still, build a good lineup while you're out with your family at dinner, or if you're out with your girlfriend or something, or your wife. One thing you can do to just be different is putting a guy like Draymond Green at the point guard position, right? He has small forward eligibility, and it's weird to put Draymond Green at the point guard spot. So I thought this is a really good way just to make a unique lineup if you'd like. And when I kind of saw Draymond in the point guard spot, it kind of brought me back to, thinking about baseball, thinking about when I play three outfielders from the same team, because people aren't really comfortable with that. So, and people are telling me in the chat, they're telling me Vince Carter's birthday narrative yesterday and playing back in Toronto. So, yeah, I guess that was something you could look at. That wasn't something I was even thinking about yesterday. And again, I'm more of a cash game player, and I've been playing more GPPs and have had some pretty good success so far this year, and had some really good lineups yesterday. I wish I could show you my FanDuel build. I had a ton of Drew Holiday, which ended up helping me out and was like a big difference maker over on that site specifically. If you played on FanDuel, Drew Holiday was a guy you definitely wanted and needed to have the shooting guard spot. It was Middleton, it was Drew Holiday, and Bradley Beal. Those three guys, if you didn't play them at shooting guard spot, you were pretty much in trouble. So, yeah, that was something I wish I had the script to bring up, but we're having some issues with the lineup builder bringing that up, so I can't really do that. If you guys could, you're watching here, please give us the like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. I don't have a cup of coffee here to, like Blender says on the show, I don't have a cup of coffee for you guys to get hotter, but, if you could hit the like and subscribe for Blender and his cup of coffee that I'm sure he's drinking right now, make that a little hotter for him. I'm sure he would appreciate that. So please, guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe if you like what we're doing over here. Now, let me kind of dive in. I wanted to look at some other stuff. I wanted to look at some ownership on specific plays. So let's look at Dink Piece. Again, he was one guy who won and always builds really sharp lineups. Let's look at Micah J. We'll throw him in there because he's a good 150 player. And we'll throw in Brick 75. Those are three guys. I trust their lineups and think that they built some pretty good stuff. So let's kind of look and see how things shaped out. So if you look at the field and how they did it, we got two guys, and Dink Piece wasn't one of them, right? Micah J, Brick 75, they all went 100% on Urson. I'm perfectly okay with that. I think that's a great thing to do. I'm all in on locking guys when you build your NBA lineups, because again, you hear it a lot, right? This isn't the MLB where Mike Trout can, get zero, go 0 for 4 essentially. This is a spot where when guys are chalk, they're a lot of the time they're good chalk, right? There's sometimes bad chalk, and Dante Exum was one of them. And I wish I would have thought about it more. I know in his first game, Dante Exum had 13 points and 13 rebounds, or 13 points and 13 assists when he started against the Knicks. And I thought this matchup was a great spot for a guy like Exum. But I wish I would have thought about the opportunity of maybe Colin Sexton stealing, the point guard role, and then maybe sliding Kevin Porter to the shooting guard spot a little bit, because they certainly did that. Exum did not get the amount of minutes that he was expected, and it was super, super frustrating. But let's keep looking at this. So interesting that Dinkmeyer did was he only had 48% Chris Middleton, which he went under the field on, which I personally wouldn't have. But while he did that, he ended up getting more, overweight on a guy like Eric Bledsoe. And it goes to show you could still win 150K if you go underweight on a guy that's a really good play, which he ended up doing there. Went overweight on Bradley Beal. Same with these guys, went overweight. One thing that was interesting that Brick did, he went underweight on a guy like an Eric Bledsoe at 32.67%. So, thought that was pretty interesting there. And another thing that Brick did that was a pretty aggressive stand to take was not playing any Jaylen Brown, right? At 0%. That's a pretty strong stance. Let's see what else he did. If he went 0% Jaylen Brown, there's a chance he went a lot of Hayward. Nope, he went no Hayward. He went no Kemba. Man, he must have just faded that game. Let's see. Yeah, he went no Bam. So I guess that was something Brick just said. I don't want that. I don't want that pace at all. He didn't want to deal with that maybe slower, grinded out game. So he didn't have. Let me see. Theis, did he have any Celtics? No, he didn't have anyone. So that's really interesting. A strong stance that he took, and like those are good stance to take. One stance I took on FanDuel is I played a lot more of that Denver and Memphis game, at least a lot more of the players. Obviously, I loaded up on the Washington-Milwaukee, and that was my highest exposed game, but that was a game I definitely got a lot more exposure to. Let's look at that man, Dante Exum, the guy that, he was very frustrating yesterday. He was 26% owned, and I talked about it. Like, this is a guard that got a lot of ownership, and a good way to leverage off of him, there weren't a ton of pivots, right, at that range. But a way to, if you don't have pivots, there wasn't a 3K guard to go to, right? You couldn't, let's see if we can find, a 3K guard. Yeah, I'm blanking on who the 3K guards may have been yesterday. If you guys can think of one, I mean, Kyle Anderson, I forget what his price is. He was cheap. Like Terrence Mann, he's a guy. He's like 3K. I don't think anyone saw him getting 24.5 fantasy points. He ended up being owned a little bit by Dinkmeyer, but there weren't these leverage plays at that exact range. But instead, the guys to leverage to were the higher price guys, right? The Trae Youngs of the world, right? He was 20% here. Micah, he straight faded him. That's pretty interesting because Trae was a guy that definitely got some ownership. And Brick, he went a little bit overweight on the field. But D'Angelo Russell was the guy, and he was one of the keys last night. And if you see Dinkmeyer, he was the most overweight, and that's probably one of the reasons why his lineups got there. If you look at, some of what Dink Piece did and Micah did and Brick did, a lot of their Milwaukee guys, they had similar amount of exposure. Some were overweight on some were underweight on others. But D'Angelo Russell, he was the guy that really got Dink there, and 19.3%. That was pretty helpful and useful. I got Ben in the chat. He's saying one time for Luka. Man, Luka was a real dud. Let's see what his ownership ended up being. He was very high owned on FanDuel, and I had some decent exposure to him over there because you just had to, right? You were just spending up because you had all these cheap options, and FanDuel has a really loose cap. But it's funny, right? Micah, he had 6%. Dink, he was overweight on Luka, and Luka, 32 fantasy points. That's one of his worst games of the season, honestly. So Dink was overweight on Luka and still did pretty well overall, right? To win 150K, that's not 150K, 100K. That's pretty good. One aggressive stand I saw that all these guys took that I want to mention was none of them played Zion. And if you look, Zion, 0%, 1.3, 4.6. That's a pretty aggressive stand to take on those guys. And if we go back and look, let's see what Zion was owned in all these contests. He was 18% in the $1, 15.55 in the fadeaway. The rotation player, 10%. The Mega 888, he's 11.7%. So all those guys took a stand on really not playing Zion. I thought that was interesting. And I felt like Zion was more of a FanDuel play rather than a Draftkings play yesterday. So I think that made sense. But I thought that was interesting that all of those guys basically said no to Zion. I thought that was an interesting thing when I was digging through the data. Let's keep looking through. Let's see kind of what else they did with their lineups. Like I said, Jokic was a guy I liked and had a pretty good game. As you can see, Micah went underweight for Dinkmeyer, and then Brick, he was mega overweight. And again, one of the reasons why he may have been on the on Dink's teams instead is because it seemed like going guys like Jonas Valanciunas and some of these lower centers like a Serge Ibaka. We talked about him a little bit. See, Dink, he had 1.33%. Micah, he had 2%. And then, Brick had 12.6%. That's a really interesting thing because Dink ended up taking it down with Serge Ibaka, but he was the lowest on them. So that's really intriguing to see. And Brick, he was the most overweight, and he didn't end up taking it down. So just goes to show you, it looks like Dink got a little bit lucky with getting Serge on the right team there. That's pretty interesting there. Let's see what Valanciunas was on, because Valanciunas was awesome. And let's see, Dink, he was overweight, 16.87%, or 16.87 over the field with 20%. And then Micah was overweight too, and Brick was underweight. So those centers, they were definitely one of the keys of the slate. If you guys have any other questions you want me to look up here based on this slate, I'm down to look at it. Just put it in the chat and hit the like for us on the stream. We'd appreciate it. And let me know what else you guys want to look at. One of the lower owned Washington guys was Bertans. We talked about him a little bit as a guy who definitely mixed into your lineups with the Milwaukee guys. As you can see, Dink had 6.67%. He was underweight. You had Micah. He was at 13.33, and Brick, he was overweight at 16%. So two of the three ended up getting overweight there on him. Let's see what else we got here. Looking at some numbers. Ingram was a guy that Dink was pretty overweight on, and Ingram didn't have a great game, so that's not the greatest there. Let's see who else. Devin Booker. Micah had almost 18%. He was at 17.33%. And Dink basically almost faded him. He had him on like one or probably maybe not one or two lineups, probably like five or so lineups. So that's Devin Booker was a very big play, and that was a pretty good play by Micah there. He may have moved some guys around to make that work. Let's see what else we have here. Who else do you guys want to dive into? Any guys? Never Barton again. Let's look at what happened with Will Barton today. We got Maxwell talking about that in the chat. And Barton wasn't a guy that was owned by these guys. The field owned him at 8.55%. Dinkmeyer straight faded him. And Barton, that's a good thing to bring up, Maxwell. He has not been good ever since these guys have been out, the Jamal Murrays of the world. And I thought he was going to be someone that was really, really good in this situation. And even against Memphis, I thought this was a great spot to get exposure to him. And I did on FanDuel, right? I have to play 2 small forwards over on FanDuel. And I thought Barton, Jaylen Brown, Kelly Oubre, and Pascal Siakam were like the top 4 small forwards yesterday I was considering for my cash games and the guys I wanted to get the most exposure to. So, yeah, Barton wasn't the greatest. It was a little bit frustrating, and Micah straight up faded him. Brick was a little bit overweight. So, again, a lot of the trends I'm noticing here is the guys we're looking up. The sharp plays, 2 of the 3 guys are overweight on, and like the plays that weren't as good, 2 of the 3 guys are underweight on. So that's pretty interesting to look at. Any other final thoughts that you guys have that you want to look at here within these builds? One thing we could look at that I always think is interesting is let's look at the Thunderdome. I'm curious what like everyone did over there. Let me see if I can pull that up for you guys. I don't know why it's not coming up here for me. Let's see. Here it is, Thunderdome. All right, I want to look at some of this because I think the Thunderdome, again, these are the highest stake guys, right? Obviously this isn't like 150 lineups, but there is some strategy to be involved in this, and I want to kind of see what these guys did overall and how they kind of approached it with their lineup. So let's kind of see how they all broke it down, and let's see what the field did, right? So the field in the Thunderdome, they 100% Middleton, 100% Ersan. They all loaded up on that. Same with another buck. Eric Bledsoe, 80%. Only one guy didn't play him. I wonder who that is. Probably, I don't know how the best way to look it up, but let's keep looking through, and then maybe we'll figure that out as we're looking through. So Bradley Beal, again, 60%. And one reason I think Bradley Beal got a lot of ownership, I think he was like a guy that filled into the forward spot really easily. Same with Jaylen Brown, right? I thought that was an easy spot to end up putting that in. And so I think that those guys having all of that eligibility, right? Shooting guard, small forward, guard, utility. I think that really drove up their ownership. And I think that's something to think about while you guys are building your lineups. If there is a guy that, is able to fit all these different positions, they're able to get more ownership at times. So that's definitely something that's really key. Like a guy, for instance, the other night, I think it was Kyle Lowry, it was Chris Clemens, and another point guard I was looking at. I forget who the play was, but these 3 guys were only point guard eligible. And because they were only point guard eligible, I could only play 2 of the 3 because my utility spot was used by Jakob Poeltl and my center spot was used by Drummond. So that's something to really think about while you're building your lineups, guys, with strategy. If you're looking at like 3 plays that you really want to play and they're high owned and all in the same spot, maybe one of them might be lower owned than you think. And there's more opportunity to leverage on guys that might even be lower owned because there's 3 plays that are trying to take up 2 spots. Then the other plays on the slate are naturally just going to be low owned, and there's a ton of opportunity there. So let's keep looking at this. So Jokic, he ended up being overweight, a guy that people were overweight on at 40%. Lowry, 30%. That was kind of in line. DiVincenzo at 30%. That was overweight. People were overweight on him. Same with Trae Young. So a lot of the good plays, people were underweight on Luka, which I think made sense once Porzingis got ruled in. Joel Embiid ended up getting 10% first time back. I guess someone thought, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for him to pop, but clearly he did not. D'Angelo Russell, he was 10% owned, which, again, was a great play. Ended up working out. So let's kind of see if we can find the D'Angelo. Let's see if we can find the D'Angelo Russell lineup. Which one was that? Was that the Utico? No, I don't know. Who had the D'Angelo Russell? I don't know. The Thunderdome's not showing up. We got some issues here with some anonymous, so it's not popping up exactly how we want to. So any final thoughts? Do you guys want to dive in and talk about the next slate? And we could do that. And someone's asking in the chat, why is Exum trash? Exum is trash because he did not get the run he needed, and he sat in the corner all game. It was super, super frustrating, but there is nothing you can do about that. If we got no other questions, there's one more thing I'll bring up, and just showing that people pay the rake, right? Look at Porzingis, right? Porzingis, he ended up, being one of those guys that was kind of questionable there, and people probably should have played him. He was a guy that I'm happy I didn't play a ton of, and I think people really paid the rake with Porzingis there. So, that's about it, though. Let's move on. Let's go and talk about the next slate coming up here and look at the situation room that we have going on here over at RotoGrinders. Let's see the situation room and what's going on here. So we got Malcolm Brogdon. He is going to be out. We got Miles Turner. He is looking to be out possibly. He's a game time decision. Brogdon, he's optimistic he's going to play, but I'm not really going to mess with too many Pacers tonight. Reason to bring that up is Oladipo is expected to be back. Do we have him here? Yeah, we have him. Set to return on a minutes limit. So I think the Pacers are going to be guys that we are looking to definitely fade. Neil O is actually asking a question. He said, can we talk about how to apply groups to our lineup construction? Yeah, Neil, I'll definitely go into that. Stay tuned. Once we hit the situation room, I'll go through and do that and kind of show you something that I watched on a Blender show on a new way that I'm kind of building lineups here instead. So I'll definitely show you how to apply groups and what to do, Neil. So stay tuned. Let's keep looking at some of these situations going on. So we got Harden. If he's out, right, Westbrook's going to obviously dominate. He's got that left thigh. He's currently questionable. Capella, he's questionable too. It could be a Rockets value day again. And if it's a Rockets value day again, man, guys like Chris Clemens and Hartenstein, we'll have to see what happens with them. It's a different matchup. And man, against Utah, they ended up going small ball. And because they were winning, they stuck with it. I don't know if they're going to do that again. They're going to go with that small ball lineup. I don't know how Daniel House can play 45 minutes again. But we'll have to see. That's something obviously to look at and digest once we kind of dig into the lineup HQ more. We got LaMarcus Aldridge. He's going to be out. And this situation room, this is offered in our RotoGrinders Premium. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, please, subscribe. It's only $40, I think, for a month. Pretty cheap. If you're playing daily fantasy sports every day, you guys should do that because, it's awesome tools all around the RotoGrinders for you guys to use. We got the Discord chat, which you can jump in the Discord chat and kind of, talk strategy with people. I mean, I swear it'll be 2 a.m. and there's people in there talking strategy, talking about what happened. And there's great people to learn from too, right in there. And we got tons of hosts in there talking about this stuff too. Blender's in there a ton. So jump on in the Discord. It's an awesome time. But LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be out. And with Aldridge being out, Podol's going to be, a smash play again. He's going to be the chalk of all chalk. We're going to want to load up on him. Bagley, he's expected to be out again. So guys like De'Aaron Fox, Bogdanovich, Bielitsa, who's been crushing it at the forward position, he's probably going to be a strong play. Markkanen, he's out for a while. Barrett, he's still out. So, again, Elfrid Payton against Memphis. That's a fast pace. I'm sure he's going to be someone we're looking at. DeAndre Jordan is looking to be in. And with DeAndre Jordan in, that's going to hurt Jared Allen. Jared Allen has been really good for the most part, I would say, with DeAndre Jordan out. Has been soaking up a ton more minutes. So, DeAndre Jordan, that's going to affect Jared Allen for sure. Ferguson helps out some of those guards, but Chris Paul's expected to be back, so we're not too worried about that situation. And Grayson Allen, I know it's not a high priority, right? It's a 4, but Grayson Allen, he's going to be out, and Jay Crowder is doubtful. And with those guys being doubtful, Dylan Brooks is a guy that could be low owned that you might want to look at here. So Mike Campbell in the chat, he's saying he doesn't think Podol is a free square. So, Mike, tell me why. I do think he's a free square. The matchup is the reason to be a little concerned because it's Gobert, but I think they're just going to need his size. So I personally think that Podol is a free square today. But, let's dive in and kind of look at the slate now a little bit. We got the Jakob Podol on here. We'll look at point per dollar. That's how we'll kind of sort for now. And then after that, we'll kind of dive in. We'll talk point per dollar. We'll talk smash plays. And then after that, we'll kind of dive in and look at some groups, and I'll show you guys how to do that because Neil was asking about that in the chat. If you guys could and you like what you're seeing here, please hit the like for us, hit the subscribe. We run here every single day for the most part. We're like 5 days a week. Sometimes it's 4 days a week. Depends if it's like a 2-game slate, but we're here often for you guys doing these shows. And we also have a show at 5:20. If you haven't checked that out, we have a show here on RotoGrinders. We got 2 people diving into the slate, talking about it. And then if you have the premium, you can, look at Crunch Time. It's our chat, not our chat. It's our show that leads you up the lock, right? It starts at 6:20 or 6:30, goes until about 7:10. And Andy Means and Kevin Roth, they bring you all the way up to lineup lock, and they kind of tell you what's going on. We also have JSU on there too. He also talks tournaments, talks his conviction plays, and you guys can check that out. But let's now look at this. We got Jakob Podol. He is a point per dollar 6 play, and man, he's in a good spot. 32 minutes. I'm expecting him to be a really good play overall. I'm going to hit the refresh button real quick just to make sure I have the most up-to-date stuff here. Jamino's always tinkering and always changing stuff, and he's got a smash play of 36% on him right now. And let me talk about this smash tool that we have here, guys. And this smash tool, it's awesome. I used it yesterday when building lineups. You sort by smash and see which guys have the highest opportunity basically to basically get that ceiling, right? The ceiling that they have. And Harden has a 75.31 ceiling and a 31% to get the smash rate. That's pretty good, right? If they have a high ceiling and their smash it plays even better, that's always good. I think that also calculates with ownership as well. So, the smash play is definitely something I look at. And before I got on air, Podol was a 52% smash. I'm sure Jamino adjusted it, but 36 is pretty high. That might be higher than any I saw yesterday. So Podol is a guy that I'm definitely going to make sure to get a lot of exposure to. He's probably going to be in my cash game lineup. And hey, look, he's one of Meansy's core plays already. And I'm sure Meansy's going to have a couple more guys. It's still early in the morning. So yeah, Poeltl's definitely a core play you want to talk about. But let's look at some of these other guys. Conley at 3.8K. That's really cheap. I know minutes have been going up a bit, right? If you look, minutes are trending upward. 25 minutes the last game. At 3.8K, he's starting to be at an enticing price tag that you kind of have to consider here more and more. Rudy Gay, he's a good point per dollar play, but the smash button, right? The smash play, 15%. I don't love that. Again, I don't think he gets enough minutes for my liking, and his ceiling, he just hasn't been the same, and the matchup isn't the greatest. So that's definitely one of my concerns. You see Murray is a good point per dollar play here. Bogdanovich, he's a guy that, now that he's in the starting lineup, it's looking to be a little bit better for him, but he has kind of struggled a bit. We haven't really seen that ceiling for him. He's playing a ton more minutes, but the field goal attempts are still down a bit. And I think it's because he's playing with a ton of different guys, right? He's playing with Bielitsa, who's putting up a ton more shots. He's playing with Fox. So I think that's given, him some problems. Jonas Valanciunas, he's a guy that I like a lot here today. I think he's going to be one of those guys that I load up on in tournaments, a matchup against the Knicks where they're going to need his size. And that's one of the problems sometimes with Valanciunas, right? If you look, they don't always use him because they don't always need him, right? Sometimes they go a little bit more small, and sometimes he just doesn't get enough minutes. And I'm going to make sure to get enough Valanciunas here. I think against the Knicks, he will do pretty well overall. Mike Campbell's bringing up a good point, though. San Antonio chalk versus a slow Utah team. What could go wrong, Mike? You're exactly right, man. We don't have percentage owned up. And Jamino, I don't know if you're still sleeping there. If you could somehow get it up here shortly, that'd be great. But I'm sure it'll be up really soon. Jamino is working hard always. I'm just messing with him. But I'm sure there's going to be some chalk here on these guys, right? Murray, Gay. You're probably going to see it on DeRozan a little bit, right? DeRozan, let's see what his price moved up to. He is 8.4K, but if we got the money, I'm sure he's going to be a guy that we're looking at 4.9 point per dollar. But again, things might adjust and move on. Lyles is probably a hard fade for me too. I don't know if I really want to load up on him. If I'm struggling for value, sure, but I don't think I'm going to be struggling for value. I do think we're going to get that Houston news, and I think we're going to have to, kind of look at those Houston guys once again. What do we got? Harden is listed in here right now. We got Westbrook listed in, and we currently have Capella in there. So news will come through. If these guys are all in, then obviously that Rockets value is not as good. But I still think they're going to be guys that we consider. Let me actually look at the Rockets now and see what DraftKings did with their price tags, because we should anticipate if that news happens. They moved PJ Tucker to 4.6K, Daniel House 5.5K. I mean, they moved him up about $2,000. So that's a pretty big price hike. You got Eric Gordon, 7.3K, Austin Rivers, 5K, Cephalosha, 3.7, and let's see, I'm not seeing Hartenstein or Clemens in there for obvious reasons, right? That's because Harden's in there, Capella, and Westbrook, but I'm guessing those guys will have, cheap price tags still because they didn't really do much. So that's something to obviously look at and something to monitor for sure. Let's see. So let's look at some of the smash plays of the slate. We got Poeltl I talked about, Valanciunas, Harden, Julius Randle. He's a great guy. And this is a good opportunity maybe to, build these player groups for Neil, who's talking in the chat. Let's say, you're building out your lineups. And one thing I'll show, there's an exclude all button. Where is it? Let's exclude all the players right now. So we're going to exclude every player from the player pool and kind of build. This is something that Blender does. And I wanted to show you guys and give you a quick peek because I think it's a really sharp thing that I started doing. That I want to kind of do more when I build lineups. So you got Blender kind of goes to each game. So he goes to Chicago, Indiana. He looks at the point per dollars. He sees Thaddeus Young, sees if he wants to play him, right? Is there anyone in this game I want to play? I don't think there's really anyone I really want to play. If there's anyone I want to play, maybe from a point per dollar perspective, it's Thad Young at 5.1. But this is a game I might actually fade. So let's say I fade the game. Let's go to Detroit and Brooklyn now. I'm going to go to Detroit and Brooklyn and see who I want to play from this game. Someone in the chat talked about playing Derrick Rose, and he's a good play, and I agree. He is a good play. We'll put him in there as someone that you want to look at. Kyrie Irving, he always has upside. 9.1K. It's a little pricey, but he's a guy. He's a stud and has a huge ceiling, has a 27% smash play. I'm going to look to obviously get him in there. We'll put some Reggie Jackson in there. And I don't know if Drummond's going to be high owned. I'm assuming people are going to play Poeltl and Drummond. I could see that being a build that people go, especially against the Nets. So we'll throw him in there. He's a 27% smash play. And we're not going to keep Jared Allen there because, again, DeAndre Jordan's back. And I don't know, maybe if he ends up being like a 1% owned play, I could consider it because Detroit, it's an amazing matchup. I mean, it's a great opportunity against Detroit. So, I think Allen could be a good play based on his ownership. But right now, I'm not really considering him too much. Now let's go now. Let's build the player groups out. Let's go to Memphis and New York and kind of look at that. Valanciunas is a guy I want to look to play. And, if they go big and both guys are playing a ton and they both have good smash rates, let's put Valanciunas in, let's put Randall in, and let's look and build a little bit here with our groups. And again, I'm not as good at Blender with building with the groups. I'm still new to kind of really doing this and diving in. So I'm kind of learning along with you guys and trying to get better at it and trying to find ways to improve. And yesterday, one thing I did was I made sure to build a group with Randall and those Hornets. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to put Valanciunas in here as one of my groups. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type Randall in. Okay. And I'm going to click this button. It says use group only in lineups containing Randall. So, whenever it contains Randall, it's going to make sure to have Valanciunas, right? That's what it's going to end up doing there. And what I can do is if I want to, let's say I want to, add in guys, I can put Jaren Jackson as a guy I want to put in there. Oh, I don't have him in my group. That's why. But all you do is you type in the guy and you put him in there. Let's say this is Jaren Jackson. It's not, but Reggie Jackson's a guy it kind of puts in there. So that's how you do it. You make sure to put it for use group only in lineups that contain the X players and so on and so forth. If you add more guys in there, then you can change how many players you want it to use. So that's kind of how you use these player groups. Another thing you can do to make things a little easier, which I kind of ended up doing yesterday, was you can go to players per lineup. And yesterday, let's say this is the Bucks, right? Let's say Chicago's the Bucks. When I found out the Bucks were this value plays that I wanted to just have a ton of, I made sure to have at least 3 in every single lineup. That's what I made sure to do because I thought that was super important. So that's something I made sure to do when building. And then I ended up making a separate group to make sure it ran back with some Washington Wizards as well. So that's kind of how you guys, that's kind of how you do it. We got Ricky Bobby in the chat. He's asking Ariza or Revenge. Let's see, Ariza, what spot is he in today? He's playing against Houston. We saw the Revenge once this season. Let's see if it's in the game log here. He had a massive, massive game against Houston at one point. Let's see. He had the 34-minute game where he had 24.50 fantasy points. That was against Houston. I think he played him one more time and had a big game. I don't know. I can't find it right now, but that's still pretty good for the price he was. So, Ariza Revenge, you definitely have to consider it. And I think Ariza's a really strong play. I liked him more at, the 3.5K I got him at. But, Ariza at 4.9K, 4.2. It's not the greatest price tag, right? I still think you could play him. Like, there's still some meat on the bone, I think. But I don't know. I don't think it's the greatest play. I think there's a lot better options there. And, again, the projections are king, right? And right now the projections don't like him as much, but maybe they move his price tag or not his price tag. Maybe they move his fantasy points up throughout the day, and then maybe I'll adjust. But at that 4.2, I don't think I really want him too much. So let's go back. Let's include all. Let's kind of fix this player pool up. There's a button here if you guys want while you're building your lineups. You click options and you go to exclude all, include all, and that's how you can kind of mess with your lineups and mess with your builds. We got John Trammell saying, next slate, I need some success. Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, I wish I could show my FanDuel builds. Like I said, there's an issue with uploading it, but man, I had some really, really good teams yesterday. Like one thing I ended up doing, and it ended up it ended up kind of costing me a little bit, but I made sure that all of my BAM teams had at least one Celtic, right? It had at least one Jaylen Brown. It had one Gordon Hayward. And I think and one Marcus Smart. I didn't have as much Marcus Smart. I had more Jaylen Brown and more Gordon Hayward, but I made sure it had any team that had BAM on it. I made sure to have one of those guys. And my Jaylen Brown, he was perfectly fine. He did pretty well at small forward. I think he had 32 fantasy points. But, man, BAM really killed me. I ended up having a team that finished like 20 points out of first place. And if I had Draymond Green instead of BAM, which the difference was like 30 fantasy points to 48, I ended up winning. So if BAM could have had that ceiling game, it would have been great. So, the process was there, having Jaylen Brown and wanting to make sure to have it with a guy that could, basically get a really big ceiling would be awesome. But I needed Draymond Green there, and I didn't end up having him. And I didn't end up playing him. And I guess one of the reasons why I didn't end up playing Draymond Green is because I was worried about Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid ended up getting ruled in. But again, I'm a cash game player, and I play way more of my volume on cash games. And yesterday was a day that my script ended up taking a little bit of a backseat. And that kind of maybe helped me slightly because it kept my Drew Holiday exposure a little bit higher. But at the same time, it kind of hurt me a bit. And that's why, juggling lineups is really hard. It's not the easiest thing to do. And I kind of recommend to you guys, if you're building lineups for, if you're building lineups and you're a cash game player like myself, that's my priority and that's something I focus on. And if you're building multi-entry lineups, it's not an easy thing to juggle for sure. So be sure to build scripts ahead of time, right? Build if-then scenarios. And I guess that's something I probably should have done, right? Looking back on this slate and kind of trying to learn from it, maybe I got a little bit lazy there. I should have built an if Embiid is in script and an if Embiid is not in script, right? I'm here learning like you guys are. Like I said, I've had some success so far. I'm up in my multi-entry so far on FanDuel. I built 50 lineups, maybe like 3 to 4 times a week. And I've had success, but at the same time, I'm learning and just kind of trying to figure out what I need to do better and kind of prepare for baseball season too. Because I think baseball is going to be one of these. Baseball is going to be one of these, sports that multi-entry is going to become more and more of a thing that I kind of play and I increase my volume at, and I want to continue to get better at for sure. And I'm going to keep getting better at that. And I wanted to learn more in NBA, which is probably one of my best sports, I would say. So, and these shows that we're doing right now, they're going to help you a ton in MLB. Listen, if you don't play MLB and you're watching this show for NBA, you can learn a lot here that you can take to MLB. So, I think that's something that I would definitely look at. Let's keep diving in and looking at some of the stuff that we have going on over here. Let's see if Jamino updated the ownership percentages. Nope, ownership percentages are still not up, but let's look at some RotoGrinders values, which is something I look at every single day and I think is important. Obviously, not all these guys are screaming values so far at this point, but Harden's a guy that I would definitely be mixing in my player pool. The question is, he's been really bad, right? And I'm curious what his ownership is going to be. If you look, 29 fantasy points, 44.25, 51.75, 52. I mean, he has not paid off that salary. But if you look, it's the perfect matchup, right? It's the Portland Trailblazers. It's 10.6K. I mean, 10.6K for Harden. I mean, that is way, way too low. So, Harden's going to be hard for me to get away from, I think, today. So, that price tag is just too good. And I know it seems like he's been hurt, but he rested. And it's Portland, right? Portland is the absolute dream matchup. So, I think he's going to be a guy that, should be high owned today. I wouldn't be scared off of what he's done. And maybe that scares off his ownership, right? I don't know. Right now it says his percentage owned is 29% here. I don't know how accurate that is, but if Harden had been smashing every single day, he might be 50%, right? So, at 30%, I'm definitely going to want to be overweight on him. Let's see what else we want to do here. Guys, real quick, we got about 10 minutes left to kind of talk about this, maybe 5 minutes left, but let's hit that like, guys. We're at 35 likes. If you could crank that thing up for me, I would really, really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button. Like I said, this is a show that's going to stick for a while here. We're going to have this show for a while. It seems like, and when baseball season rolls around, let's say you're not playing, let's say you stop playing basketball for a little bit, life gets busy. Maybe you subscribe to the channel and it pops up during baseball season. You can watch one of these shows and it'll help you take something down because again, baseball is where I think this show is going to be really, really valuable. Talking about different types of strategies and really studying what some guys are doing. Talking blenders vomit stacks, right? Stacking up the Marlins and the Giants to win all the money. So, please hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. Please, please, please. Really, really appreciate that. Let's talk about one of my favorites. I love playing Andre Drummond. I kind of play him a little too much. I will say he's 9.7K over here on DraftKings, but man, he's right now at a really good value, 2.3 on the value, and it's the Nets, right? It's like the dream matchup. So I think Drummond is definitely gonna be someone that I definitely look at today because, against Brooklyn last time, he had a great game. Cleveland was a good matchup, but I don't know what happened that game. He smashed when he came out the gate, but then he really struggled towards the end. People are asking some FanDuel questions. If you guys do, hit me with some FanDuel questions. Listen, Blender doesn't play as much FanDuel. If you got a FanDuel question, please hit me up. I'm definitely very, very happy to try and answer that for you and talk about it a little bit because I play a lot of FanDuel over there. I also play a lot of DraftKings too, but more tournaments I'm playing on FanDuel. I'm starting to get a little more DraftKings action on tournaments, trying to play the 20 entry max more so. That way I can work on that. But what game is a target game on FanDuel? What do you mean by a target game, Larry? I guess what's the type of game to target? Let's look at FanDuel right now. Let's go to that in the lineup builder. You can switch, you can go to Yahoo, Fantasy Draft. We have tons of great stuff over here on RotoGrinders with this lineup builder. It's my preferred lineup builder to use. I'll tell you right now, guys, I've used other lineup builders, and I get it. The other lineup builders throughout the industry, I'm sure they're great too, but I've had my most success with the RotoGrinders one. And I'm not just saying that because company man or anything. I use other sites too. I don't just use RotoGrinders, projections. I use a ton of other things, but this is my favorite thing to use at RotoGrinders based on the lineup builders. This is my favorite one to use. Let's look at some FanDuel stuff. What's my favorite game to target today? So I haven't dove into the slate too much. He's saying my favorite 3-player stack. So let's look and see what the games are today exactly, and see the kind of what's going on with the salaries over here, and decide what my favorite stack would be. I don't know. Maybe it would be. I don't think it would be the San Antonio, Utah. I don't know if it would be that. Obviously, I'm going to play a lot of Podol, right? So he would be a guy I would consider for sure. I'm trying to think of it. What would be a good 3-game stack today? I mean, obviously, probably Houston, Portland would be a really good 3-game stack over on FanDuel, depending on the news, though, right? A lot of the guys in Houston, Portland are kind of expensive, so playing 3 of them might be a little bit difficult. Got Houston, Portland. Obviously, I'd want to play Harden. I want to get exposure to him. Maybe I'd run it back. Instead of paying for Podol or going down to Podol, maybe I'd pay up to a guy like a Capella. And then I'd run it back with, let's say, Carmelo Anthony, right? In the little revenge spot. He likes to put up a ton of shots. One thing I do on RotoGrinders a lot here, let's pull this up because this is actually good information that I like to look at. Let's look at the defense versus archetype tool. I don't know how much you guys use this. I use this a lot for player props. And this might show something with Melo that could be really interesting that I like to pull up. So usage versus average. Let's see what shows up here. So this shows you guys what type of player, right? Reggie Jackson, he's a combo guard. Derrick Rose is a combo guard. This tool over here on RotoGrinders, it shows you guys the usage versus average, where all of the usage is going to be funneled by the Nets defense. And a lot of the Nets defense funnels usage to, what do you know? It funnels it to combo guards, guys like Derrick Rose, guys like Reggie Jackson. So there could be really good opportunity for these guys here. This is something I look at all the time. I think is a great tool. And look at Melo's going to get 7.52% usage funneled to him compared to his average, right? And if Melo's getting more usage, that's good for him. So I like the idea of doing a Harden Capella and run it back with an Anthony stack. I think that's a good, interesting way to go. If you don't want to play Harden, you want to go Westbrook instead too, that's a perfectly fine route to go. Shots versus average, right? Melo gets more shots. Field goal percentage, he gets a higher bump. Again, I'm not saying that this is just going to happen because of this, but I think it's something interesting to look at. We also can scroll over and we can look at rebounds, right? Let's see here. Rebounds. Let's see. You can look, Buddy Hield's going to get a boost. Russell Westbrook's going to get a boost in rebounds. Harden gets a boost in rebounds, which is good for these guys. Because again, they're going to get buckets and put up shots, but if they're going to get more rebounds, that's great opportunity for them. You can look at assists too. Who's going to get more assist opportunity? Again, there's some outliers like Mitchell Robinson. I mean, I'm not playing Mitchell Robinson for his assists. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing that. But certain guys, it might fit better. Like CJ McCollum. He's a guy that gets a pretty good usage. You see his shots go up. He's a guy that shoots the ball a ton. He's getting 18.32% shot bump. Obviously with Damian Lillard there, that might change because what Damian Lillard's been doing, he's just been chucking every single shot. But these are just things that I like to look at and I think are really interesting. And you could do the opposite, right? You could say rebounds. Who's this a bad rebound spot for? Maybe you think this is a good spot for Hassan Whiteside, but not so fast, right? 28.86%, negative for this rebound matchup. So this isn't a great rebound spot for him. I see people in the chat talking about Dylan Brooks. They say Brooks is sneaky for me on FanDuel, no ownership. And Casey, I agree with you. I think Dylan Brooks has been the sneaky play all year long that I haven't taken, I haven't taken advantage of enough. And I'm going to try and take advantage of a little bit more with Grayson Allen out, with Jay Crowder looking to be out as well. We see Dylan Brooks here. It looks like his rebounds aren't the great, but he gets a really nice usage bump, and that's good. You have to like that. So, this is something I would look at here over on RotoGrinders, guys. I think it's an awesome, awesome tool and something to utilize. Maybe it helps with your, with your 1v1s, 2v2s, trying to make small decisions. Maybe that's a way to make that decision because I've done that before, and I think it's a valuable thing to look at. But let's go back. Let's look at the lineup HQ one last time, and then we're going to get on out of here. We got about 5 minutes left, guys. Please, we're at 40 likes. Please hit that like button for us. Hit the subscribe if you like what we got going on over here at RotoGrinders. I might be a little bit of a change of pace to Blender. He talks pretty fast. I talk faster than him. I'm giving you more content than Blender, technically, because I'm talking a little bit faster than him. But it's a good time here. I'm really enjoying diving in this slate with you guys. And please hit that like, hit that subscribe if you like the content you're getting on over here. So let's talk about Dylan Brooks a little bit. Let's look and dive into him a little bit because he's been pretty good. He's 5.6K over on FanDuel. And if Harden's going to be high owned, a shooting guard spot is already, taken up by a lot of ownership. So that's good. And look what Brooks has really done. I mean, when he gets the minutes, he is smashing 35 minutes, 52 fantasy points. They get the 18-minute game, which is a total anomaly, right? I wouldn't really think anything of that. 5.6 fantasy points, whatever. That's fine. 33 fantasy points and 39. Dylan Brooks is a guy against the Knicks in a pretty good matchup. I want to get some Dylan Brooks exposure. So if you look at the shooting guard position, and we could sort by shooting guard here and look at ownership percentage. What's Dillon Brooks' ownership? Like, yeah, James Harden, 10.7. People are going to play him. People are going to play DeRozan with LaMarcus Aldridge being out. Donovan Mitchell naturally going to get ownership. Bogdanovich at 4.4K. He's starting, and he's been, a guy that people have been playing. And you can argue Dillon Brooks is a better player than Bogdanovich. Like, people seem like they're just buying the name Bogdanovich. But again, 4.4K, it's like 1.2 cheaper. But I don't know. At that ownership compared to Dillon Brooks at 5%, I might want that 5% play instead in GPP. So in cash games, I get maybe going to Bogdanovich if you want because the price is right. But I don't know, man. Dillon Brooks, he's seeming like a really, really good tournament play that I think you guys are really onto something and a really good play. Victor Oladipo, what about his debut? Listen, from like watching basketball perspective, I'm pretty excited to see Oladipo and how he can work with this team, but he's going to have a minutes restriction, and that's going to hurt everyone, right? It's going to hurt Sabonis. It's going to hurt Brogdon, who could possibly play, Lamb, all of these guys. I mean, it could hurt everyone. So I'm staying away from the Pacers. I think the Pacers are a good X out spot on my script. I haven't entered. I don't know if I'm definitely entering my tournament lineups today. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet. There's a good chance I play, and if I do play, I'm not going to play the Pacers. I'm probably not going to play many Chicago guys. Maybe I'll run it back with Levine. I mean, he's been amazing, but I'm not running anything back, so probably not. It'd probably be a good spot. The price has gone up, maybe to just stay away. And the ownership's gone up because if I'm not playing any Pacers, why should I do that? Mark, you're asking for my player prop of the night. I don't have any player props yet. I haven't dove in too much, but one thing, like I said, when I look at player props, I look at this tool. I look at this defense versus archetype tool. I don't know if this tool is free. I wouldn't be able to tell you for certain, but I like to look at this and kind of see and let's see what kind of jumps out as maybe one. Like CJ McCollum's an interesting guy, right? Maybe we take his points because he's going to shoot more shots. He's going to shoot maybe 20% more shots. You could bet on his 3-pointers. That could be a good opportunity there. You could bet on his assists at 29.17%. Maybe betting on CJ McCollum's maybe betting on his points, rebounds, and assists. That might be a good one. Maybe just doing his points and assists too. That could be a good opportunity as well. Another one you could do is rebounds. Like you could like Westbrook, right? 33.42%. That's a boost to him. That's something else you could look at as a good one. So I use this tool a lot to kind of look for opportunities to take advantage of player props. So that's definitely something I would use and sort by because I think that's really good. And sorting by matchup too, right? I mean, we're playing daily fantasy sports here, and you can sort by matchup too. See who has a good matchup. Like someone's talking about Buddy Hield today, and Buddy's got a great matchup, right? Scoring wings, bench scoring wings specifically against OKC. And why are bench scoring wings really good against OKC? The reason why bench scoring wings are good against OKC is because they're going against Dennis Schroeder defense. And Dennis Schroeder defense, that's a good time. That's a ton of fantasy points will be scored. And if Buddy Hield somehow slides into the starting lineup, like let's say he slides into the starting lineup out of nowhere for Bogdanovich, then obviously that matchup wouldn't be as good for him. So that's something to definitely look at. What's your take on guys coming back from taking a grieving day? Kyrie and Rose. Yeah, Ricky Bobby, I'm not reading too much into that. It's pretty tough. I look at TweetDeck a lot. Like I'm sitting on Twitter from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And if I see someone sounds pretty motivated, for instance, Trae Young, I was already playing him, I think, when he had that big game, but it kind of gave me more confidence to play him when I saw some of his tweets. He seemed like he was super motivated to play for Kobe. He was talking about playing with his jersey. I saw a tweet came out that he was going to be wearing number 8. So seeing those kind of things maybe get me more excited to play a guy because he seems like he's more motivated in that way. But I'm not trying to play the guessing game, right? You saw guys like DeMar DeRozan, that first game when Kobe passed and it was super sad. You saw a guy like DeMar DeRozan get, pretty emotional about it. And his game was at 3:30, and that's probably one of the reasons why too. But I'm trying not to play that guessing game. It's kind of a little tough to do that. But if you hear some of their quotes throughout the day, which you might hear their quotes during shoot around today, and if you hear that they're kind of have that Mamba mentality, I guess you could say, maybe that gets you more excited. I do know one thing. I saw Bradley Beal. He tweeted out his shoe. And he wrote on his shoe, and I don't know if I saw this at 7:02, but I was debating a swap, right? I was debating Luca versus Dante DiVincenzo, I think it was, or I forget, but I was debating a swap. That the whole point of the story is I was debating a swap, and Bradley Beal was a guy that I was looking at, and he tweeted out Baby Mamba on his shoe. He wrote down, and he seemed like he wrote all these things down about Kobe that he was super excited about, and that kind of gave me more confidence to play him. But I try not to play the guessing game. It's not the easiest. Tony, one last question. We'll do that, and then we're going to get on out of here. Guys, again, please hit that like button for me. I'd really, really appreciate it. He says, isn't Sabonis still in a good spot with Chicago? Bad at rebounding, generally poor defense and in the post area. Yeah, I agree with you. It is a little bit of a new spot, so I don't know exactly what to do. Let's kind of see what Sabonis's situation is here with rebounding against the Bulls. Obviously, the matchup is pretty good overall. Let me move some things around so I can see it. Yeah, matchup's good, right? Post bigs, 25. It's a pretty good ranking overall. Let's see what the rebound percentage is, because again, that's really good. And if you get rebounds, you get putbacks, that's always pretty good. Let's see what we have as rebounds for Sabonis. It's a 6.04% bump in rebounds. So yeah, that's pretty good. Also, this category gets a 14% bump. Shots versus average, right? More shots for him. So it seems like things are getting funneled there as well. So have to like Sabonis a little bit. And we'll look at Sabonis one last time for you here. Let's see what we have over here on a projection for him overall. And then we'll get on out of here. Let's see. Sabonis. We got him projected for 36%. Obviously, to get ownership, smash percentage, 22%, and point per dollar, he's at 5. And on FanDuel, I think he's a better play than DraftKings probably because, again, you have to play 2 power forwards over there. And salary's a lot looser, so it's easier to play Sabonis. So, Tony, I think you're right on FanDuel. Sabonis might be a little bit of a better play. I'll check DraftKings real quick for you, and then we are going to get on out of here, have some closing thoughts, and then move on. 10% we got him at. Notorious has him as a cash game play. He is 9.4K, though. That is a little pricey, right? I'd probably rather find the $500 or $400 for Drummond instead personally, but hey, that's just me. That's my thoughts on the slate. Again, guys, thanks a lot for joining me. I really, really appreciated hanging out with you guys. Appreciate you having me on the show and talking about the slate. I believe tomorrow we have Blender on. I think he is on for the Thursday show, so he will help you guys out. Again, hit that like and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up, please. We would really, really appreciate it over here on RotoGrinders, and I would appreciate it too. Helps me out, and I'm happy to help you guys out. If you guys ever want, you have any type of questions, anything you want to talk about, hit me up on Twitter. My handle is at Travis Mangone. It's TravisMangone. Hit me up there. I'm happy to help you guys out with questions. If you have any sports betting questions, I do sports betting content over on Sharpside. We have an awesome streak contest going on over there that you guys should check out. If you get a streak of 5 and you hit the lock button on those plays, it's got to be a minus 140 or below bet though. If you get a streak of 5, you get $10 for every single bet you hit. Once you hit the 10 streak mark, you get $20 per bet. So guys, please join in on the Sharpside. Check it out. It's absolutely awesome over there. But I got to get on out of here. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hit that like and subscribe. But I got to go. See you guys later. Peace out.